Hello and welcome back to Centipede, the final video, episode 3. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go ahead and kind of play through the game as if I was progressing, just to show you that there is a system where the game does progress. I can show you the different sounds and how the sounds work. And then I'm going to die so that I can show you that the game actually goes back to the attractor mode when I die. So yeah, let's get this party started. I'm gonna leave the sound on, by the way, and it might be a little loud. Just a fair warning. Wow, I am really bad. So yeah, that was obviously on nightmare mode, and it was pretty intense. I must admit, it was pretty intense. But yeah, so that is basically Centipede. I did not beat my high score, unfortunately. I still got 1566 at top. And I was really hoping I would, but it didn't work out. So, yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the code. And as you can see, I've been hovering pretty consistently at this rate. So, at least it appears to me as if there's no memory leaks. I'm not exactly the master of knowing what exactly memory leaks are at this point. I mean, I do, but I don't exactly know perfect practice to keep myself from having those. So I'm happy if that line seems to be pretty steady. So let's go ahead and dive into the Scorpion first. So the Scorpion has a Scorpion factory. It is a singleton. Scorpion, it's created in the same way as all the other guys. It cleans up after himself, terminates, and then yeah. So the Scorpion basically is created with an initialization from the factory. This initialization resumes the sprite, and then it chooses the spawn that it wants to spawn at. The spawn is either side, and then it sets the speed to whatever it needs to be to get to the opposite side, and then it goes ahead and it chooses the row, and choosing the row is between the min and the max spawn, which is right up here. So yeah, that's how that works for there. And then when it goes through its update, it just adds the speed, updates the sprite, sets the position to the sprite, and then it checks to see if it's outside of the screen. It has to be like this because I don't want the Scorpion to disappear as soon as it touches the edge of the screen. I wanted him to disappear when he gets completely off the screen, so it keeps that that immersion going. So then it stops the beat, and it tells the Scorpion spawner, hey, I'm dead, start up a new one, and it marks it for destroy. If it's not at the edge of the screen, then it goes ahead and it checks the shroom, again with this linker class that I created, and it checks to see if it's in the row or the area that I'm at. If it is, or if there is a shroom there, then it goes ahead and as long as the X is greater than 0, The reason for this is because, again, if it gets off screen, and sometimes there'll be a null pointer, sometimes there won't, so it'll crash the game if it tries to poison a mushroom that it thinks is there and it's not. Um, so yeah, it needs to check to make sure it's like within the screen boundaries, and if it is, then it goes ahead and it poisons the mushroom, and the poison just says, hey, I'm poisonous now, and set my animation to be appropriate for that. So that's how the scorpion works. Really simple, honestly. The scale trick, I know we weren't supposed to do that, but you did say we could. And again, with the whole time constraint, with optimized and math and all that, it seemed like the way to go for this current project that I was working on. So when we go into the flea also comes from a flea factory, and it is a singleton as well. And it has the create flea, recycle the flea, and it cleans up after himself. When the factory is destroyed. I forgot. I should mention probably that the flea spawner has there's inside of these spawners there's an active centipede. Like there's an active for because you want to pause the guys that are on screen. So when it's created, it goes ahead, and I'm using the centipede for example because that's one of the more that's like the titular character. So when he's created, he adds it to the list, and then when he dies, conversely, he's removed from the list. Or no, this is for kill. I'm sorry. Where is he? Remove. Yeah, right here. He's removed from the list. Because it checks to see the position, and then it erases it from the list. So what the list is for in the first place is to kill him, and to pause him, wherever the pause is. The pause is around here somewhere. It's oh, come on, it has to be here somewhere. Well, anyway, yeah, here it is, right here. Pause. And also kill. So yeah, it goes ahead and it kills it. So that's how the freezing each wave and then killing it works. So yeah. Anyways, back to the flea. So yeah, the flea's initialized, and he has a base speed which is 3.5, and then he starts the flea sound, sets life to 0, chooses a spawn, sets the row to where he's supposed to be, yeah, basically starts up the whole guy because he's recycled, and then when he collides with the bullet, because the bullet's the only thing that's registered with the flea besides the player, but then that would just kill the player, so the whole game would end. He'll increase the life, and then he'll create an explosion, and then he'll add the flea to the score system, and if he doesn't die, he'll go full speed, which is 5. So he follows with that system of if you shoot the flea once and don't kill him, he speeds up. So that's kind of how the flea works. Oh, the update for the flea. He'll go through the shroom spawn, which is it sets the field of my row. So this is a conversion type dealio. It kind of does the conversion for him. It checks to see if he's in that row, or if the current row is the row that returned. If not, it's gonna increment the row, and then it's gonna go ahead and it's gonna do the random chance. And the chance to spawn is controlled in the flea spawner, and this is a random chance that also decrements as the game goes on. It'll increase flea difficulty, and what this does is it decrements the chance to spawn as long as it's greater than 3. Because I mean, if it was, that'd just be ridiculous. You'd just be spawning columns of. I mean, maybe it'd be fun. I don't know. You'd have to get some play testers on that. But yeah, so that's what it does. And if it does satisfy that statement, then it'll check to see if there is a shroom there. And if there's not a shroom there, then it'll add a shroom as long as it's not the lowest row, because then that just kind of blocks the player in like a wall and that he can't move around. So it'll just go ahead and add the mushroom, and if it's added to to below that mark, it'll increase shrooms on the bottom, which is the trigger that's needed for the flea. So it kind of keeps track of that. So to continue with the update, the position is increased by the speed, and then once he gets out of bounds, he's destroyed. and he updates the position of the sprite. So how the flea is triggered in the first place is every time a mushroom is destroyed, it pings the flea. It's like, hey flea, what's going on? And if the mushroom is destroyed beneath, if the row is less than the flea check max, which is the row that is required, um, it'll decrement the amount of shrooms in bottom, and it'll ping the flea, and it'll be like, okay, if the flea's on in the first place, if it's on, because you can turn them off here, then he'll be like, okay, if it's less than 5, and if the alarm is less than 0, then it'll set the alarm, flea, spawn delay, because you could just keep setting the alarm up and 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 up, so that'd just be absolutely ridiculous. So then it'll set a new flea with the spawn delay, which is also set right here. So it's kind of how the flea works and how the flea's called to action when he's supposed to come. So let's move on to the spider. So the spider has a spider factory, and it's the same thing as all the other factories. But then he also has a spider explosion factory, and this kind of just handles that spider explosion. That pops up and says how much the spider is worth depending on where he's killed. So inside the spider, he has a direction pack similar to the centipede. It's kind of where I took it from. He also has a max and a min for the range that he belongs into. And when he updates, I know you said to fix the update, but I didn't really have many other ideas of how to fix it, other than, excuse me, rather than going back and completely redesigning the entire system of how the spider moves. I felt like this was okay. I mean, every single frame, it only does one if statement, and then it does the update. If it doesn't satisfy this requirement, then it will go into this big chunk, but there really was not many other ways to do it. So yeah, I also kind of had to have the this here because the problem is that he would just go on forever and he would live forever if he got out of bounds. So I kind of had to put this somewhere. And a lot of this is it's trimmed as much as possible. I mean, there's only 2 cases here. This rarely triggers. This doesn't trigger very often. This is so the story behind this is that I wanted the spider to have consistent yet random movement. So he would be kind of, rather than having array positions that are like 24 or 16 or 32, he'd just be going in diagonals forever. It would be kind of ridiculous. I wanted him to have kind of like sporadic and random movement. So I have the array position, but then I also have the current direction. So the current direction is it's a random range between this stuff and also with the random. So it'll choose a new direction if it's out of the current direction. So that'll give it that kind of like weird, like sporadic movement that I really wanted him to have. Again, this doesn't trigger often, so these cases, the fact that it would, the idea that it would go through those cases, it doesn't happen often. But I do like the way that the spider works, and had I had more time, I would have definitely gone back through the update and fixed it to make it look a little prettier. But yeah, so I wanted to also show you the pause. So when this guy gets paused, and this is much the same idea in the other critters too. I can show you how they do it too. It sets the direction to do nothing, which is literally 0, 0, and then it pauses the sprite. And the reason behind this is that I realized when I was doing this and pausing him that when he gets to the end of his array, he's gonna end up going through it if it's 8, and then he's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna choose a new direction. Well, he can't do that because then he's paused. He's not supposed to move. He's not supposed to think. So this gives it the illusion that he's frozen. Because I mean, there's not going to be ever a time where it's going to go through 100,000 mushroom repairs. That would be ridiculous. So this was kind of like my Band-Aid fix to kind of fix the way that the update system is designed. Again, if I had more time, I'd love to go back and really make this a cleaner, a more efficient method of doing things. But for now, this is just going to have to do. This is the kill. That is when the wave after it's paused, then it kills all of the mushrooms, or not all the mushrooms. I'm sorry, it kills all of the critters. Excuse me. Yeah, so basically this is a spider, and this is basically the same kind of system I used in the attractor mode. We'll get there, and I'll show you that. But so yeah, the choosing the spawn. God, I've taken so many videos. I don't even remember if I went over this yet. This is basically he chooses the current direction, and then he chooses which side he's going to spawn on, and he'll set the speed according to to get to the other side of the screen, because he's only going to go to the other side of the screen. So then it rebakes the up angle and down angle with the appropriate speed based on which side he chose, and then it'll choose a random do I go up or do I go down, because that'll give him that totally random behavior. And then in here is the collision for the bullet. This is it'll stop the sound. It'll say, hey, I'm dead, can you initialize a new spider? It'll deregister the collision, and then this is where it'll create the explosion, the regular explosion, but then it'll also create a spider explosion based on how far or close he is. I know magic numbers, and I know I totally could solve this by doing a const int in the header file, but again, I'm running really low on time for all the other stuff that I got to do. But basically, it creates a spider explosion, and in here is where basically I'm trying to show you how it what the heck? Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. So he creates a new spider explosion, and then he initializes it, and he sets the worth and the position. So if the worth is 0, he'll do a 300 one, or a 600 one, or a 900 one. So that's kind of how it decides what it's going to look like when it's created. It also sets the alarm for 2 seconds, and when the alarm's done, it destroys itself. So it kind of persists on screen for a little bit, so you can see your glorious score you got from killing the spider. So we're going to move into the mushroom field, and I'm going to go over basically what I had not gone over yet. I'm going to look for some stuff to see if I can kind of go over it for you. I mean, a lot of it is, this is the invisible field. That didn't end up working out. I really wish it did work out, but it didn't. This is the attractor mode. Again, this is all prototypes that didn't end up working out for the block. But basically, to check shroom, it'll return true. Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten this far in this video. So, there's a random location function. Let's see if I can see the reset function. I don't think I showed you that. Yeah, here. So it'll clear the shroom basically. It'll go through it. It'll check and it'll clear it. So this is how it goes about, clearing the field and then starting a new field. So it'll initialize player, which means that it's going to create a new field, and that's kind of how that works. So when the shroom field's destroyed, it'll go through and, or no, when the shroom field's destroyed, he'll delete all of the mushrooms in the field. So actually what you can do here is you can't see this. So yeah, basically, I mean, that's pretty much it for this. Yeah, so I'll finish this. I'll end this video, and I'll keep going on the next video. Thanks.